Okay, so last time on History for All to Understand, we went over the Roman Empire. We discussed its impact and its fall.
And now do you understand it?
Today, I do understand.
Then it's for all to understand.
You know what I mostly understand with the Roman
Tell me.
Empire? I mostly understand that I think I understood a lot more before, but I just didn't place it with the Roman Empire because I don't think about it every day.
Sounds like Socrates. I know that I know more than you because I know that I don't know anything.
I don't know. I don't know about that. But I can tell you that, Gregory. First off, let me plug this in so I'm able to hear how loud we get. I don't know that. Where are we at here? Are we live?
Oh, we're live.
No, it makes a lot more sense to me now. And I think I always knew it, but you just don't really think about things. So, was that what Socrates said? What did he say?
No, I was just being cheeky.
Just being cheeky. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. All right. So last time we discussed the Roman Empire, and today we're going to talk about the Middle Ages.
Oh, yeah. So just to frame it, we talked about history generally and themes. Then we talked about ancient history on a timeline. And then we focused on one culture, talked about China. Then on another culture, talked about Rome. And now we're back to that timeline. So we're going from ancient to middle or
Perfect.
medieval.
All right. So what were the Middle Ages, Greg?
So it's a historical time period that suggests that it is in between two things because it's the Middle Ages, right? That's what medieval means. It's the same word. It's now also been called the Dark Ages, which we could talk about. But what is it in the middle of? It's in the middle of ancient and modern. Ancient and modern. In between you have middle. Simple. And it goes for 1,000 years. An exact year, 476 AD, the fall of the western half of the Roman Empire. And it ends at the Renaissance. Because the Renaissance is a rebirth of Greco-Roman culture. So between the fall of Rome and the Renaissance, that 1,000-year period is the Middle Ages.
Tell me about the knights and the castles and chivalry and all that. It's fun.
Are you going straight to the knights because of Knight's Tale?
Great movie.
Heath Ledger. No.
Great costumes.
Yeah, that's Heath Ledger.
Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, I was thinking First Knight. Richard Gere.
Oh, I haven't seen.
Anyway, why'd you go straight to knights?
Because they seem like they have things figured out.
It's probably also because culturally that's something that always comes up in movies and things like that with the Middle Ages. It's some knight in shining armor.
Oh, those
So
knights.
what? Now where we gotta start with feudalism.
Excuse me.
Check this out. So recap, here's where we are on the timeline. This 1,000-year period. But I wanted to show you something. So this is a famous pyramid chart, right? Graphic to show the social hierarchy in the Middle Ages. And we're talking about Europe specifically, right? It may have looked different in other parts of the world. And there may be some similarities too. But in most European cultures, whether it was modern day England or France or what is now Germany, it looked like this. So you had someone on top that was the monarch, and then below them you had lords or nobles that were powerful, wealthy, landowning, and then working for them were knights. And the knights were like the law enforcement, the protectors, those that led you into battle. And then on the bottom you have the peasants or the serfs, who also would fight for you if need be. But it's a give and take relationship. So what's in it for the serfs and the peasants? Protection, right? They're growing the food and they live under a kingdom or under a nobility with the knights that protect them. So everybody's happy until the plague comes. I'm sure we're gonna get to that.
Yeah, before we get into diseases and the plague, let's talk about what life was like daily.
So I think it's important to remember that Europe after the fall of Rome, and even the last couple hundred years of the Roman Empire, is very Christian. So the whole landmass of Europe is often referred to as Christendom, which means Christ's kingdom. So everybody's Christian for the most part, and that shaped daily life. So it wasn't too dissimilar from even the Romans, where there's farmers that grow food and they're the most numerous people, and there's artisans and merchants and people in different roles in society. There's a lot of people that are part of the church, monks that are preserving the scriptures, and priests that are teaching the people. But daily life was very Christian in the sense that it was very communal. There wasn't a lot of travel. So you were for one, because it wasn't practical, it wasn't inexpensive to get up and go somewhere. So it was very communal, and you pretty much lived and died in the same town or same region your whole life. Another way to think about this is when you talk about daily life, and maybe this is why people often call it the Dark Ages, is that, you know how nowadays when we compare our upbringing to, say, our parents' upbringing, or we think of our upbringing compared to our own kids and their upbringing and how different it is, after really only 20, 30 years apart, it is so different, it's almost unrecognizable. Our kids compared to our parents, just 2 generations, is almost unrecognizable. It's just completely different because of this technology boom. A lot of people say that in the Middle Ages, you would have more in common with someone that lived 100 years before you, 500 years before you even, because daily life didn't change that much, right? There wasn't really massive inventions that changed the way everybody lived. Whereas today, like I said, just 1 generation and it's unrecognizable. It's completely different. So there's stability in the Middle Ages in terms of daily life as well.
I think about like just community and how drastic COVID was for a lot of people, and how it really changed the way gatherings happen, and how I still feel like it really shifted community even now. If you're not like plugged into a gym or a community or family, you don't see family all the time. I feel like prior to that, I don't know, I feel like it was different.
Yeah.
So I just can imagine, sorry, to that point, like in the Middle Ages, I can imagine like how your neighbor, your like neighborhood, if you're not traveling either, like these are your people, like this is your community that
I see what you're saying.
Life with.
Yeah. And maybe, I don't know if you're going there next, but maybe it's a good time to cherry pick and talk about the Black Plague, or the bubonic plague, the Black Death. It all refers to the same thing.
So everyone talks about that.
COVID.
Yeah, right. Everyone talks about the Black Death. So tell me about it.
Well, to compare it to COVID, to about 5 years ago when COVID broke out, it was, no one knew quite how bad it was, but there seemed to be a much higher fatality rate. So, there's a lot of fear, and it was spreading worldwide. The bubonic plague, no one really knows for absolute certain what it was, but whether it was a virus or a bacteria, I don't know, I'm sure you could look it up, but I think some people say it was a bacteria that came from Asia with rats. So, or fleas on rats, right? So that's probably the prevailing theory, is that flea bites would infect you with this bacteria or this virus, and they were on rats, because rats were coming over from Asia, and we're talking 1300s, right? So if you think about it, hold on, let me say this. 1300s, just to get the timeline. Marco Polo and all that stuff, that was 1200s. So there was travel back and forth to Asia. So anyway, what were you going to say?
I was in the car one morning with the girls, and they pulled up Fleas on Rats songs to like I Ain't No Holler Back Girl, Gwen Stefani's. Have you seen that version?
No.
Oh my
You have
gosh.
to play it.
Oh my gosh. She's like, yeah, all the teachers show this, Mom. I was like, Dad must know about this. This is real. Like, they had me watching this one morning.
It's the plague, gonna kill you in a few days. A pandemic so severe, blood that cause such horror and fear, and there ain't no cure for that girl. You'll be dead.
You can't unsee it once you see it. You can't unhear it.
From the yesteryear pestes, and an ancient time a black girl, gonna bury you out.
Fleas on rats. There you go.
When you said fleas on rats, this is all I could picture.
Oh yeah.
You've never seen this.
Never seen it, never heard of it.
History
awesome.
teachers. Yeah.
Posted 4 years ago. I hadn't been in the classroom beyond 4 years.
Well-
Your Ratatouille bonus footage that I would show my students when we talked about this, where Emile and Remy, the two rats, are given a history lesson on the bubonic plague, and there's two different species of rats. I guess there's brown rats and black rats. But anyway, that's pretty cool. So, this was like one incident that, like, through all the Middle Ages, is like the one incident where it's like, what is going on? Like, everybody's dying. How many people? Half of Europe? That's probably a little high. It wasn't half of Europe, like a third of the people in Europe, maybe. It was a lot. It was millions that died. It's also before modern medicine. It's before the scientific revolution, where there's really advances in understanding anatomy and diseases and having microscopes to see these, very small living organisms that make us sick. So, what is a very Christian culture to do with this? I mean, there's a lot of, I guess you'd call it superstition. If not saying this is God directly judging us, this is something demonic, and maybe it is, but people would also blame it on witches. They would blame it on the Jews. They would blame it on all kinds of stuff, right? To say, to try to explain why so many people were dying. Ring Around the Rosie.
Yes.
That's supposed to be a song about the plague too. Ring Around the Rosie, referring to the mark on your skin. Pocket full of posy was something you put in for burial in someone's pocket.
Today's medical-centric topic is bubonic plague, history, symptoms, causes, and more. The bubonic plague, also known as the Black Death,
Ugh.
is a deadly infectious disease that has caused significant historical pandemics. Here's what you need to know about its history, symptoms, causes, and more. 1.
Sorry,
History
I
of
just
the
wanted to pull
bubonic
up a
plague.
picture real quick.
I heard somewhere that this is also where we get the word boo-boo. When you're talking to a little kid, do you have a boo-boo?
Yeah.
Same word.
Swollen lymph nodes, good sperm, extreme tiredness, fatigue. Typically, so it looks like, so if you have bumps in your armpit, that's like your immune system's firing up. So your lymph nodes are probably all swollen. And to diagnose, that says here, can also spread it through direct contact. I need to read more about this. This is interesting. Treatment. Antibiotics. So
You're
bacterial.
not loud enough here.
Bacterial. Antibiotics. Treatment. Fleming. Scottish. Discovered penicillin. But was that the first antibiotic?
No. Oh, maybe. I was thinking of I think it's Jenner.
Penicillin first one.
No, I'm thinking of
Jenner did the
vaccine. First vaccine.
probably
That's what I was thinking of.
with the cow. Was it cow?
Yeah.
honey?
Discovered by accident. Yeah. And penicillin was discovered by accident too, right? It was like a mold or something.
Smallpox.
Yeah.
Smallpox.
Cowpox. Yeah, Edward Jenner. Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway.
So, going back to COVID, I mean, we have modern medicine, but back in these days, lots of people died.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So I wanted to say one more thing because, when we just talked about the Roman Empire, it's obviously regional. It's this culture in one part of the world. But when it comes to the Middle Ages, it's fascinating to know. Check this out. It's a very similar pyramid, but this is Japan. So Japan was so similar to European culture in their hierarchy, right? Not in every way. In some ways, they're completely unique. But there's a direct connection. The emperor would be the king, right? The shoguns or the daimyo, even more powerful, would be like the nobility, and then the samurai are the knights, right, with peasants underneath them. So really similar setup, without even really knowing about the other culture halfway around the world.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know how when we talked about the Greeks and the Romans, we
Wait.
talked about democracy? So this is not democracy. This isn't where the people rule and everyone votes. This is a monarchy.
Yeah.
So what's better?
For them. It's
Sure.
better for them.
I think the reason I ask is I think modern minds look at this and go, oh, that is the Dark Ages. It's the Dark Ages because they didn't have democracy and they weren't doing any inventions and just not a
You
lot of
said-
learning going on, which is, I think, a bit of a, I don't know, a misnomer, because there was a lot going on in the Middle Ages and a lot of learning was going on. And I think it's a lot easier for a non-Christian to say that was the Dark Ages, also because it was a time where Christianity dominated and flourished, right? And not other worldviews were really flourishing in Europe. It was the Christian worldview. So when the Renaissance comes, and then it leads to all these other revolutions, including eventually the Enlightenment, which is another name on purpose to say we're enlightened, almost like we're finally done with this Christian stuff, right? We're now enlightened, back to being secular, back to being humanist. So, and you gotta be careful using that term Dark Ages, because it's loaded with meaning, it's loaded with bias.
You mentioned previously that there was some travel between China, though. So could that
Yeah.
have accounted for any of the positioning?
Not to Japan, but
Oh, this is Japan, not
Yeah.
China. Sorry. Okay.
I mean, China still had dynastic rule with the dynasties, like we talked about.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was the late Middle Ages, the High Middle Ages they call it, because the Middle Ages can be broken up too, right? The early Middle Ages to the High Middle Ages. So about the 1200s, so close to the end of the Middle Ages. That's when Marco Polo, famously, and others went on the Silk Road to visit China. Yeah, and sure they brought back ideas, brought back things, right? Merchandise, spices, right? Became really big for Europeans. And it wasn't much long after that, a couple hundred years before Columbus and Magellan and Vasco da Gama and these Portuguese and Spanish explorers start to look for a faster way to get over there to Asia to get those spices, rather than just overland. So that's the age of exploration, but that's getting out of the Middle Ages now.
Yeah. So people say the Middle Ages were anti-intellectual, and when you're telling me this, just how society lived back then, I did question, like, okay, how did the learning happen? Like, what? Because there was progress made eventually, and you talk about travel later on, but like, was that true? What was literacy then? And if you look at people groups and the way that they grow anyway, you think, we're fairly resourceful. Humans are resourceful. So I just wonder, like, what living was like.
Well, to address the anti-intellectualism, I think that it's easy to have a bias if you're not a Christian and say it's anti-intellectual, because the intellectual endeavors were being done by Christians. The biggest names, the biggest thinkers of the Middle Ages were the Christians. Three in particular come to mind, but there's many more than three, and these three you've heard of. Augustine, right? He's the earliest, 300 or 400s. Actually, really, he was there before we officially call it the Middle Ages. Anselm, Thomas Aquinas especially, right? And these are men that sorted out a lot of doctrinal issues. In fact, Thomas Aquinas' nickname is the Doctor of Grace, or the Doctor of the Church, because he sorted out a lot of these things. He also reconciled classic philosophy with Christian theology, and how he explained how God reveals things to us through general revelation, right, nature, and teleology, right, when we study nature, and special revelation through Scripture, through His Word. So it's just one example of how he sorted out a lot of these quandaries in intellectual thought. So a lot going on. I think we talked about this last time too, but the monks were hardcore with the monks and the nuns, hardcore with their devotion to the faith, reciting Scripture, rewriting Scripture before the printing press could easily make copies, rewriting the Scripture. And they were so good at it. It's been proven that they were good at it. Remember, we talked about the Dead Sea Scrolls. Right, that was a discovery where we could look back and go, okay, did all these monks over hundreds of years or thousands of years, did they get it wrong? Did they switch some words around? Did they change the meaning of the scriptures? And you look at these discoveries of ancient Hebrew text from, 600 BC, and they're the same. It's the same words as today. So those monks, they took it seriously. That was like that was their life. It wasn't just they were bored. Like, I guess I'll be a monk. Like, this was their calling. This was important to them to live in community with other Christians and watch over the scriptures. It's pretty cool if you think about it.
That
like
is really cool. Yeah. Luther comes to mind.
So that's getting out of the Middle Ages. We could talk.
That
I say we
happens
say that
after.
for next time.
Yeah, that happens later.
The Protestant Reformation. Yeah.
But I also think about,
But he was a monk. Yeah.
yeah,
For the Catholic Church.
I think about, well, just at church recently, the pastor said that throughout history, God has used Christians to care for the poor and needy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just wonder, like, when it comes to devoting your life to being a clergy member or like a monk, like, how do you, like, or how do people earn a living like that? And like, what did it look like?
Yeah,
Did families and communities take care of each other?
Yeah, it's through donations and tithing, right? So communities giving to the church to support those that did ministry. Absolutely. Yeah.
Very cool.
I was going to say too, if you're talking about intellectual pursuits during the Middle Ages, some of the first universities in the world sprouted up during the Middle Ages. And again, they were very Christian, right? University of Paris, Oxford, Cambridge. These are like almost 1,000 years old. These institutions, there's learning institutions, universities. Do you remember what that word means? University. Combination of unity and diversity, just like the universe, right? So it's a united place, united to learn with diverse topics, diverse fields of study, unity and diversity in the same place. Dark ages, more like the bright ages, you know what I mean?
That's funny. What are some things that people would be surprised to learn about the Middle Ages? I would imagine, like, culturally speaking, the arts.
There's so much. Something that fascinates me that I'm trying to wrap my mind around even still, just because it's such a long period of time, is when you look at the map of Europe today, you see these countries with borders. Two of the bigger ones are France and Germany. And then below that you have Italy. And over here in the Iberian Peninsula you have Spain, right? And below Germany you have Austria. And then over on the island you have England, and it's connected to Scotland. And then there's, how did that happen? I mean, there's like a big story of how that happened, but why did that happen? At what point did people go, we have a common culture with people in this region. We should be a country, right? That doesn't just happen overnight. It's pretty wild. Like if you took a snapshot of the Middle Ages, say 1,000 years ago, what does the map look like? It doesn't look like that. So that's why I think it would surprise people, is that it was an evolution of cultures and a movement toward nationalism eventually toward the end. But let me take you down some of that just so you can connect the dots. So the Roman Empire, remember that map that they controlled everything around the Mediterranean. And then people start to move in, and the Romans called them barbarians, right? These barbarian invaders. And these barbarian invaders had their own cultures and their own languages. And we know of many of them. And many of them, there's almost a direct line to a nation today, right?
Where it came from, right?
Yeah, like the Goths and the Visigoths are the Spaniards, right? The Franks are the French, right? Other Germanic tribes, that's Germany, right? The Anglos, the Saxons, over in England and Scotland. So there is a direct cultural line there. But have you heard of Charlemagne? It's kind of an important one to know. So King Charlemagne means Charles the Great. He was born in, I guess, what is now, no one knows exactly where, but either like the western part of Germany or into Holland maybe, or Belgium. But he's also connected with the French because he was a Frank, right? He was just like in like Frozen, the coronation ceremony. There was a coronation ceremony where he was proclaimed to be the Holy Roman Emperor. So the Pope in Rome declared him to be an emperor over a Christian empire. And if you look at that on the map, I want to show you, give you an idea. Empire. That's a good one. Just you can get the idea. So everything in green was that Holy Roman Empire. It wasn't called that right away with Charlemagne, but I think it was going after him, Otto. But eventually that was a Christian kingdom, Christian empire, with the blessing of the church, right? The Pope said, you are chosen by God to rule over this empire. And there's just a lot going on. So on the map down here, the Iberian Peninsula, after the spread of Islam, right, 700s AD, there are Muslims that have moved into this area, and then the Spaniards took it back. They reconquested, the Reconquista. It's a well-known event that happened to reconquest Spain in the name of Christianity. And then it's really not until, so this empire, the borders changed, there's various cultures throughout, but there's countries today that are inside this green spot, right? Switzerland is right there, but there's no Switzerland yet. Belgium and Holland are over here. This is a big part of Germany. This is most of France. This is half of Italy. So it wasn't really until Napoleon, which is far after the Middle Ages, like 300 years after the Middle Ages. Napoleon, a Frenchman, takes all this, all the way to Russia, really. And that's when this empire finally falls apart, and it goes back to city-states and to, regional rulers, regional groups. Like up here, one of the big ones was Prussia. Not Russia, but Prussia, right? That was most of Germany. And then down here you have Austria. And then I'm getting ahead of the Middle Ages now, but then you have a nationalist movement or a unification movement. So Germany did eventually become its own nation in the late 1800s. And then Italy did the same thing as well. France had already done it, right? They were a kingdom. England had already done it as a kingdom. But that's how you start to get closer to the modern map. So same people, they're fighting, they're battling all along during the Middle Ages. That's something I find interesting.
Yeah. I think it's interesting to think about like the leaders that end up being the regional and being in charge of the different.
And there's a lot of power games going on with the church. Yeah, with the name. Yeah. Well, it's like I said, a lot of them came from the barbarians. Yeah. What the Romans called the barbarians. But there's a power play too with the church. Right? You want to do it with the blessing of the Pope. Because if you're a ruler who just says, you know what, I don't care about the Pope, you're probably going to lose a lot of popular support, right? Because the people that you rule over do follow the Pope, right? They are Christian. Yeah. They are what we would call Catholic, right? It's Catholic Church. So you have to play the politics of it. And then Italy also, they have city-states. So there's a city that is the power of that region, right? Like the city-state of Venice, right? And the city-state of Florence and Rome and so on. So there was no Italy, just powerful city-states.
So we talked about universities, legal systems, nations. A lot of fairy tales came from that time period.
Like Joan of Arc, the fairy tale of Joan of Arc. Just kidding, not a fairy tale. No, she fought in the 100 Years' War between England and France. So I'll tell you something interesting. So my last name, which is also your last name, Noyes, spelled no yes, Noyes.
Pronounced.
Noyes. Although when we had the lead singer from Herman's Hermits do a shout out to my mom that one time, and he's from England, he pronounced it Noy, and he did it very deliberately on purpose, like he knew what he was talking about. So it might be that. That name, as far as I can tell, came from the Normandy invasions of England. So it was about 1,000 years ago. Some I guess it'd be Frenchmen invaded England So maybe it's a French name, but now it's become an English name.
I think it was English.
But I'm telling
know,
you, it
I
was
know.
French before that, because it would trace that name to England. Yeah, but I'm saying even before that, it came from France.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I really liked how relatable this time period seems to me. And I think it's because I've been brushing up with Annabelle a little bit in her 6th grade content, but also because I remember that pyramid and I remember taking a test on who's going where. And I remember the classes and quizzes on this.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is a time period that I am more connected with. We also did an entire period, like Renaissance period series.
Yeah, which comes right after
learning.
the Middle Ages. But the
is
other
that
thing
next?
too is,
Like,
yeah, we could do that
we're
next.
talking about that
Absolutely.
next before you get into,
So after the Middle Ages is the modern era,
right,
but specifically we
between.
could talk about the Renaissance as the beginning of the
the
modern
beginning
era.
of the modern era, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You also have the Reformation, you have the Scientific Revolution, Age of Exploration, Enlightenment, but the Renaissance is first.
I've been like very uncomfortable in these lessons with you because a lot of it I didn't know. And I'm
But
like
you'll
just
know
trying to
more
reconnect.
as we get closer to the
Oh,
to
100%.
the current time.
Yeah,
Right?
but there's just, as you can tell, like we're doing we're doing an overview because you can, like, we've missed so much, but this is just like, the purpose of this is just to be like an overview, because later on for History to All to Understand, I want to do more interesting things that like kids could watch, where you break down, this culture in these 5 movies, or you talk about
What I also want you to be able to do is
me.
yes, you. If I were to
I have to
name
do
drop
something.
a person or an event that you could think of the timeline and at least start to pin it. Where was that? And not, I'm not saying you, but some people just sound historically ignorant when you talk about somebody and they're like off by 1,000 years or something. It's like, do you not understand how this works?
I'm going to be honest with you, Greg. Some people don't know much history. I'm one of those
That's why
people.
I'm trying to help you.
I'm one of those people.
Trying to help you.
And it's just, sometimes it's just not interesting. And I'm finding it interesting I'm finding it interesting. It's interesting as I'm doing this. But all I'm saying is,
What are you trying to say?
I've always been someone who likes challenging myself. And even when it's boring, like if you give me something to put together, like I don't even want to look at the instructions. I just want to try to build it, and then I'll look at the instructions. So the reason why I'm doing history for All to Understand is because I did want to challenge myself to really place. So your quizzes are great because it's going to help me to place where I'm at and who you're talking about. But it also shows me that there's a lot more to cover and a lot to learn, and you can go down and I'm already thinking about like tons of books that can be read about just one aspect of some historical time period. So it's interesting.
You know what you're going to get wrong on that test?
What?
The Crusades, because we didn't even talk about it. You know what else you're going to get wrong on that test?
What?
Robin Hood. Because
Well,
we didn't even talk about it.
that's why we're doing
What else
this
you going to get
overview.
wrong? The Magna Carta. What's that? Do you want to talk about those before we finish?
We have to. No, we totally have to. Absolutely,
There's
you
a
have to.
lot.
But no, you know who's gonna love this too? My little brother Ethan. Like, he loves history stuff. Hi, Ethan.
Yeah,
I hope you
yeah,
watch
yeah.
our podcast.
He already knows most of this stuff. He's a smart cookie. Okay, let's do a little crash course before your test.
Yeah.
The Crusades. Do you know what this is?
Yes.
What is it?
It's
okay if you don't know all of it. Just
It's a time period where people were ambushed and murdered.
Yeah, I mean it was a conflict, sure.
Okay.
It's specifically
The
when
Christians
a group of
persecuted.
European Christians. There was a call by the what was the Pope's name? One of the popes made a famous call to arms to go and retake the Holy Land in the name of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Who was there? Muslims were there,
Mm-hmm.
and Jews, and so the Christians went to take it back. And there was I think 4 general campaigns to go do that, and this has taken place like over 100 years. Right, so there's a big campaign to go take back the Holy Land and then come back, and there's a lot of mixed feelings
Was it
about
planned as well? Like, it was planned
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it was taking place over this
Yeah,
period of time? Okay.
like one campaign might last 20 years, and then another generation says, let's go do it again, let's go back. And the Christians didn't act very Christian a lot of times, right? There was definitely pillaging and killing and stuff like that. And then there's kind of the same stuff going on the other side. And then there's times where one side or the other extends a lot of grace and, doesn't kill and allows worshipers of all types to be in Jerusalem and things like that. Like Saladin was one of the famous Muslim rulers that had a positive reputation.
So are you talking about, when you talk about like people extending grace, are you talking like people are getting worn out, they're fighting and they're realizing, okay, there's kids and there's families on the other side of this, or
or
what do you
just
mean
being
by that?
tolerant to other worldviews and allowing them to come and travel through or pilgrimage to Jerusalem, because Jerusalem is of course a holy city to the Jews first,
Yes.
and then to Christians and to Muslims as well, because Muslims regard Jesus as at least a prophet. So they also recognize Jerusalem as an important city. And of course, Christians do too, because Jesus is the cornerstone of the Christian faith, and that's where he was crucified and resurrected and all that stuff. So all three faiths see Jerusalem as a really important city, even today. That's why it's always such a place of conflict.
Magna Carta.
So, well, hold on first. I was talking about putting a pin in it. Where in the timeline? So the Middle Ages is about 500 to 1500. Where's the Crusades? It's okay, but like generally, where do you think it is? Way early on, in the middle, at the end?
I'm gonna guess early on, 700s,
Yeah, it's more like 1000s, 1100s, 1200s.
700s, 1000.
Yeah.
It was 300 off.
Now the Magna Carta, a little bit
Wait,
after that.
what did I get? A B or a C?
It's a C plus. C plus. Well, I barely got a B too. I don't remember the exact year, like 1100, something like that. So after that comes the Magna Carta. This is a Latin term. What do you think it means? Magna Carta.
It's a document.
Yeah, that's the Carta part. Charter.
And it's a large document.
Yeah,
Magna.
yes. It's the great charter, the great document. Yeah, that's exactly it. And this was featured in at least one Robin Hood movie, the one with Russell Crowe, I don't know, 15 years ago or 20 years ago, where they replayed it. But there's King of England, King John, that was coming under fire because people wanted more rights, right? Not necessarily voting rights, like pure democracy. They weren't going that far, but they wanted some rights. And some of the things they asked for, it's fascinating because I used to show these to my students and I would ask them, if they're asking for these things, that must mean that these things were happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like really random things, like the king can't make you take your horse, from here to there or something. It's like,
Yeah,
that must have been something the king was doing and people
Yeah.
were not happy about it.
sure.
So they had this whole list of like demands, like you're not going to do this, you're going to let us do this. And it wasn't unreasonable stuff. It wasn't like,
Yeah,
we get to come visit the castle whenever we want. Like, it wasn't like that. They were just like, here's a list of things, and you're not going to have our support if you don't agree to this. And so King John reluctantly signed this great charter, this Magna Carta, in 1215 AD. It's a very famous date because it's a huge step in the progression of democracy. Remember that pyramid? King's on top, everyone else on bottom. That's how
Yeah.
it was for 1,000 years.
it's funny you mentioned that, and we've talked about that a lot, because I think about what it means to be a leader and a ruler quite a bit. Like, I think about it a lot, and you've had examples of really bad leaders and really good leaders, and
Yeah.
we haven't talked about specifics in the Bible yet, but the Bible talks about
Good leaders and bad leaders all the time.
and how
Yeah.
God establishes and puts in places, like authority. All authority comes from God, and it's like,
Even bad leaders God uses in the Bible for his purposes. Right?
purposes.
He hardens Pharaoh's
Yeah.
heart against the Israelites going into Egypt. He makes Nebuchadnezzar go mad. All right. There's Artaxerxes allows the Jews to come back to the promised land
yeah.
through Nehemiah. Right?
So
Daniel.
we're talking about that in the at church too, and I just look at like pastoral roles, like leader, like pastors, and the roles of like the leadership that God has allowed man to have on earth, and what it looks like, and it's just it blows my mind, because I think that, I mean, my whole life I've been a leader. People have looked up to me. I don't always take on the leadership role, but I've had that. You know, you're a leader at a school. We talk to our kids about what it looks like to be a leader and how you have to operate with integrity and character and like what that looks like. And I just find it so daunting sometimes to think about like these rulers that we learn about. And I'm like, oh my gosh, some of them like had some things figured out and some of them were absolutely miserable. So I think about the weight and I'm like, that's not me. That's not my role, you know, but I think about like,
well,
men.
even we just went over the Roman Empire last time, right? Some of those leaders were crazy.
Yeah.
Right? Putting their horse in charge and just some crazy stuff. It's like, what mental health issue did you have going on?
Seriously.
Right?
Absolutely.
And others are just good politicians. So, little foreshadowing for the next one, if we talk about the Renaissance, is it better to be feared or loved if you're a ruler? For the Renaissance, because Machiavelli wrote the book, Machiavelli said, if you have to pick one, make sure they fear you. That was his guidebook for rulers. But anyway, that's after the Middle Ages.
Well, I think you can be both. I think you can be feared and respected and loved, and I think you can be both. But I think you need to have balance and you need to not be crazy.
You know who getting away from the Middle Ages, who I look at in the Bible as like the main one that I'm like, man, that guy, he had it figured out. And you know how Solomon famously, when the lady whose baby died, she swapped it with the other mom in the middle of the night, so that mom woke up with a dead baby, but she knew it wasn't hers.
Yeah.
So she comes to the king and says, this woman gave me her dead baby. Like, can you please figure this out? Solomon goes, all right, we'll split the live baby in half. You guys good with that? And the real mom's like, no, just let her have it. I don't want my baby to die. And the other one's like, yeah, split it in half. And that's how we knew. That's way before the Middle Ages. That's BC, 1000 BC.
Yeah.
1200
Well,
BC.
he also, I mean, he prayed for wisdom and God gave him wisdom and wealth and everything. But I think also I think there's a lot to learn here because I feel like any of us can have the ability to have more wisdom. Like God says, if you desire to know more, like I know I've always prayed for wisdom when I don't know what to do. And sometimes I don't know exactly what to do.
Yeah.
But I think he has a really good, like Solomon's a great example. And that example, even though it was nonsensical, it's like sometimes it's very like that's what wisdom, like I think the Bible says like seek for it at like rubies and like precious jewel, like seek after wisdom and you'll find it, right? It's not like there's some people that operate unwise and they make unwise decisions. We've all had the capacity to do that. But when you think about what wisdom is and what God offers, especially leaders, you know.
Yeah. Another one I thought.
Anybody really.
Was it Moses or Aaron or even Joshua that had to put the people in groups because he spent all day just like this, like answering all the questions, and he was just like, I need help with this, and so he organized it. That might have been Aaron. Anyway,
I don't remember. We should read about that. We'll try to find it.
But I think about that too, where I'm just like, I can't anymore.
You have to delegate.
I need some help.
Yeah.
Just
yeah.
solve everybody's
Well,
problems.
to my point, anybody's capable. I mean, you give the authority to your kids. If your kids are doing stuff and you're like, all right, like, you know, simple example.
Capacity building.
You and I were working on something recently, and I was like, you know what, Matt, let's do, like, you host a Bible study for your siblings. Like, you just read a scripture to them.
You did have him do that.
On that morning, and then and it was cool. And I walked in there, and he's just reading a scripture. I'm like, he's capable of explaining it to him. He's a grown young man, right? And they're listening to their brother. Like, anybody has a capacity to teach. Anybody has a capacity to
Anybody?
Anybody. You just have to be creative and think about, you know, delegating. Anybody out there want to edit all my podcasts so I can delegate?
Build some capacity in you.
Oh gosh.
Oh my gosh. So I hope that you at least can see it on a timeline.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Oh, you want to do we miss
not just me, like whoever's watching.
When
we do these quizzes, we missed one, but when we do these quizzes, anybody watching should be able to now pinpoint when we have a timeline up there.
Oh, I said Robin Hood, but that's okay. It was just in connection to the Magna Carta.
Someone talked about Robin Hood recently. I think it was Abby.
No, we were talking about the cartoon Robin Hood and how little Timmy, that's not his name, Skippy, I think, the little rabbit, everyone scrapped and saved for that one little coin for him.
Yeah.
And then the Sheriff of Nottingham came and took it. 1973, Robin Hood cartoon, animated.
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about.
What was the original Robin Hood story from the Middle Ages, though? And is that in alignment with
know.
requesting things that they didn't have a hold, like they didn't have?
Well, yeah, it was like he was like a vigilante that stole from the rich to feed the poor and all that stuff. So he's, yeah, to people that are like left leaning politically today, they're like, oh yeah, he was like a communist before there was communism. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know about
I
that.
don't quite know what exactly
Yeah.
went down there, but
Yeah. I think there's probably a lot of corruption and great like unpopularity with the leaders. Oh, I think the real history of it is that King Richard the Lionheart had gone to the Crusades, and he had left his brother, maybe Prince John, in charge. Maybe I'm just getting that from the cartoon. Who knows?
yeah. I think the intention's good, but I think the act is bad. I don't think it's good to steal. I think that's a bad thing.
That's what Jesus said.
Yeah, I think that's a bad thing. Just gotta pray to Jesus and say, Lord, give us more money so we can provide for the people that don't have any.
I like to be generous. All right.
All right, so
I just wanted to make
wraps
sure
up.
that you have like the timeline in your head. Can you picture ancient goes to middle and then to modern?
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
got the timeline in your head,
That's-
then you're good.
No, it feels way more familiar now.
The details and all that stuff, but you got to have like the bones to understand it. You can get into details about certain people. That's what's cool about history. You can get into like a deep dive on any one person or conflict or war or something like that
Yes.
at any time, but we don't. It's not like you have to go. Like when
It's
you're
more
studying
interesting
history, there's
now.
the
You
have
kind
tos
of
and
want
there's the
to.
wannas, you know. So yeah,
You kind of want to at some
once
point.
you speak the language, then you can get in.
Yeah,
There you go.
exactly. Once
Yeah.
you speak the language, then you can say, well, I'm more interested in leaders. What do leaders do, right? If I
Yep.
like leadership, right?
Yeah, look through it.
I'm
the
more
thread,
interested in, yeah,
follow the thread through history.
sure. And that's the fun thing to do, and that's the fun thing about learning.
It's kind of what we did with the philosophy books. Like, what's the thread of the history of thought?
I'll leave you with this. So, you talked about how men love the Roman Empire and talk about all of these things, and I have a better connection with that now.
Oh yeah.
I'll leave you with this. I don't know if you've seen that movie with Sarah Jessica Parker. It's I don't know how she does it. Love that movie.
I love it because she loves it.
And it's just this working mom who's just trying to keep her house together while she's working and doing all these things, right? And I'll leave you with this so you can better understand women. Like, men have their own things that they're in charge of and things that they get preoccupied with. But half the time, things in the women's brain is like, I'm not going to speak for everyone, but maybe some women can identify with this.
Careful.
We have more multitasking abilities, and we can diversify, and then we can like look ahead and then pan back. While men are preoccupied thinking about historical things and how to conquer the world, women are thinking about day to day,
That's what I said last
and
time.
they're thinking about other people, they're thinking about birthday parties, they're thinking
Yes.
about events, they're thinking about their husband's to-do list.
Oh,
Things that get lost, right? Like, take care of that one thing that got lost in the weeds, you know, like follow up on this thing, right?
yes.
Reminders to assist, right?
this reminds me of my grandma and grandpa because
Yeah.
my grandpa ran a pool business after he had retired from his air traffic control job. And he was such a people guy, right? He would just go out and like just chum it up with the people. Just, all right, I'm going out checking on the pools and just Mr.
Your
Mr.
grandpa's great.
Personable
We
guy.
love Grandpa Paul.
And then he'd get home and Grandma Nancy would be like, "Did you write that check for the plaster?"
And that's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying it in a negative way. I'm just saying there's like a million things that are rotating. That's the difference. Like, we got to go into the whole psychology behind the differences of males.
Take me
and
into the
females.
psychology. It's the Middle Ages. Take me
Yeah.
there.
Well, we'll wait till the modern age to get into that stuff.
Oh, little Freudy doity. Little Wilhelm Wundt.
Anyway,
Carl
so
Jung.
from Middle Ages to what men and women think about to
Oh dear.
what's next, Greg?
I think instead of just talking modern era, we hit the Renaissance specifically.
Yeah, for sure. We have to.
Booyah.
Yeah.
1993. Booyah.
All right, so next time we'll talk about the Renaissance. That's a wrap.
Yeah.
See you next time.
Gotta click it.